Hello, my name is Brett Spence, and today we'll be talking about Napoleon's Egyptian campaign. Alright, let's begin. After it became clear that the invasion of England was unlikely in 1798, so the commander of the Army of England, Napoleon Bonaparte, convinced the Directory to invade Egypt to use as a springboard to invade India and to try to cripple the British economy by cutting off British trade with India. Egypt was ruled by the Mamluks since 1250. The Mamluks were slave soldiers from Turkish, Caucasian, Eastern European, and Southeastern Europeans. Despite the Mamluks ruling Egypt, Egypt had been a province of the Ottoman Empire since 1570, but the locals hated the Mamluks, seeing them as foreign overlords, which the French planned to use the disorder to conquer Egypt and spread the ideals of the revolution into the Orient. On the 19th of May, 1798, Napoleon with 13 ships of the line, 14 frigates, 400 transports, and 40,000 men set sail and avoided being intercepted by the British fleet under the command of Rear Admiral Horatio Nelson. The French fleet arrived in Malta on June 10th, where the island was ruled by a crusading order called the Knights Hospitaller, which ruled the island since 1530. The order was two-thirds French, and they were sympathetic to the revolution, and the locals despised the order, so within 2 days, Grand Master Ferdinand von Hompesch surrendered the island, and within several days the Knights would leave Malta or join Napoleon's army. During Napoleon's 6 days on the island, Napoleon completely reformed the governance of the island to implement French revolutionary ideals onto the island. Napoleon abolished feudalism and slavery, freeing political prisoners and establishing schools. But the French during this time looted the island and seized religious orders' property, which tripled Napoleon's war chest. Leaving 4,000 men to guard the island, on the 19th of June, Napoleon again set sail to Egypt, where Nelson's fleet passed the French fleet because, due to the bad weather, neither side could see each other, and Nelson didn't realize that he had overtaken the French fleet and gotten to Alexandria first on the 29th of June and waited 24 hours before frantically continuing his hunt for the French fleet. On the 30th of June, an hour later after Nelson had left, the French fleet arrived in Alexandria, and on the 1st of July, Napoleon disembarked quickly and with 5,000 men captured the city the next morning. After disembarking, the rest of the army and 167 savants that accompanied the army, they were there to study Egypt's historical and natural sites. But when they arrived in Alexandria, believing it would be the place for the days of Caesar and Cleopatra, but they were bitterly disappointed what the millennia had done to the city. The once great city of Alexandria was now a ramshackle town with only 6,000 people. As Napoleon was disembarking, Murad and Ibrahim Bey, the two most powerful lords of Egypt, summoned the Mamluk chiefs to Cairo and rallied an army to crush the invaders. On July 5th, Napoleon marched his army to Cairo, but the blistering heat and the barren desert took its toll on his men. He forced them to march as his men were running out of water and died due to thirst or removing themselves to escape the suffering. To make things worse, Bedouin tribesmen attacked the stragglers and they would rob, torture, and kill them. The march put a strain on Napoleon's officers, with Lannes and Murad having heated confrontations with Napoleon about his decision-making. But within 4 days, they were able to stop at Dammar, where they were able to resupply before the Mamluk army led by Murad Bey marched to face them at Shubar Kit, where 4,000 Mamluks charged into the French squares, and unable to break the squares and taking heavy losses after 2 hours of fighting, they retreated. The battle boosted the morale of Napoleon's army, and Napoleon continued his march to Cairo. On the 21st of July, near the town of Imbaba, the two armies are about to face in a battle that will be remembered as the Battle of the Pyramids. Napoleon, with 25,000 men, had formed his army into 5 giant squares with cavalry and baggage inside the squares, and the corners being covered by the artillery. The 60,000 Mamluk army was split into two due to the Nile River cutting the army into two, with Murad on the west side of the bank facing Napoleon and Ibrahim on the east bank. Murad's 6,000 strong cavalry were between the towns of Baktit and the fortified town of Imbaba, which was guarded by Ottoman infantry and militia troops. Napoleon marched his army through the Mamluk center and crushed march their right flank against the river. But during the march, Napoleon's left flank became disordered, and Murad, seeing the broken French squares, ordered his cavalry to charge. But the French squares were able to reform and waited till they could see the whites of the Mamluks' eyes to open fire, and unleashed a devastating volley. Unable to hit the enemy, the Mamluks retreated only to reform and charge again, only to be hit by another deadly volley. After a few more tries, the Mamluks retreated from the battle. On Napoleon's right flank, the Mamluks charged, only to get scattered by the French squares. And with the cavalry gone, the French charged into Imbaba and captured the town, with the garrison fleeing into the Nile, where hundreds drowned, and Murad, with what was left of his army, retreated to Giza and later to southern Egypt, and Ibrahim retreated back to Cairo. The Mamluks suffered 10,000 casualties, and the French suffered only 289. On the 24th of July, Napoleon entered Cairo, where parts of the city had been burned when the Mamluks retreated. Napoleon thought Egypt was his, till on the 1st of August at Abukir Bay, Nelson's fleet engaged the French fleet during the evening, where the British fleet were able to destroy the French fleet, with the French flagship L'Orient exploding during the battle, but Nelson was wounded by a French musket ball to the forehead. Now, Napoleon was stuck in Egypt, and to make things worse, Napoleon's treasury was lost when the L'Orient blew up. Napoleon sent General Dessalles south to pursue the rest of Murad Bey's army, while Napoleon set about reforming the administration of Egypt. The feudal system was abolished, establishments of a postal service and hospitals, and introducing a new tax system. Napoleon also established the Institute of Egypt for scientific and scholarly research on the 22nd of August, as well as showing great respect and interest in Islam, and helped him fund construction of mosques and observations of religious festivals, which led to rumors that Napoleon had converted to Islam, but these were merely to curry favor with the locals. While Napoleon was in Egypt, his wife Josephine resumed her affair with Hippolyte Charles, a lieutenant in a hussar regiment. When Napoleon found out about the affair, he wrote to his brother Joseph that he was about to divorce his wife, but the letter was intercepted by Nelson and was published in the London papers. And in revenge, Napoleon had an affair with Pauline Furs, who was married to an officer in Napoleon's army, and fell into a deep depression. Unfortunately for Napoleon, his efforts to win over the Egyptians had failed, with most Egyptians seeing the French as another foreign occupier and infidels. Minor revolts broke out across the Nile Delta, which were brutally suppressed by the French. In September, the Ottoman Sultan Selim III, who was also the Caliph, declared a holy war against the French, and with this declaration, Egypt broke out in full revolt against the French. The revolt started in Cairo on the 21st of October, when the military governor, General Duspy, was killed by the locals when he tried to break up a disturbance in the city. So after his death, the whole city broke out in open revolt, but the French were able to brutally crush the revolt, with Napoleon pardoning the ringleaders, but secretly ordering any rioter caught with a weapon is to be beheaded and thrown into the Nile. The revolt showed Napoleon that he could not win the hearts and minds of the Egyptian people. With the French army still stuck in Egypt and limited communication with France, everyone was getting homesick. Their supplies were also running low, and to make things worse, an outbreak of bubonic plague had infected the army. On the 22nd of January 1799, deep in southern Egypt, General Dessalles managed to shatter Murad Bey's army at the Battle of Samhud. During the battle, one of Napoleon's future marshals, Louis-Nicolas Davout, distinguished himself during the battle. But unfortunately for the French, Murad Bey escaped and was still at large. Despite the victory, the situation for the expedition was still grim, with no hope for reinforcements or getting home. Napoleon hoped for a diplomatic solution, but the Sultan wasn't having it, and the Sultan ordered every province in the empire to raise troops and destroy Napoleon's army. Napoleon, despite the horrible situation, he decided to do what Alexander the Great would do in this situation. He will attack. Join me when we'll be talking about Napoleon's Syria campaign. See you next time.